Okay, hello everyone. So I think we're going to go back from Web3 and go to something which is a lot more basic, which is maritime. So today what we are doing at Spinergie in the end is a lot around sustainability and is how we help our clients who are vessel owners or vessel charters to basically decrease their consumption. And that's not easy. And we have two things we are mainly doing. The first thing is building this giant tech platform to absorb any data which is on the ship. And these guys are using thousands of things which are different. There is no standard in the industry. It's like the stone age of digitalization. So one big focus of Spinergie today is building this platform and connecting everything together to have one platform to bring visibility. How am I performing? What am I consuming? Which are the basic questions these guys cannot answer today. And the next thing we are doing is then, well, on top of that, building recommendation. And things are quite basic. You know? Some questions they are asking is, you know, when should I leave the port in terms of the weather along the way? How is it going to be? Should I leave in 1 hour, 2 hours to save fuel? The second question they're going to ask is, what should be my speed? And this is going to depending on the direction of the waves, the intensity of the wind, how much load you have on board, and these things are not answered at the moment on the basic systems that they have on board.
First European digital freight for water, and you've grown since 2016 to one of the few European unicorns. How did you make that happen?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. We have grown quite a bit in the meantime. By now we're about 900 employees. And I think since we started, we've been on a mission to transform or help transform the industry, right? It's one of the oldest, most reluctant to change industries, and at the same time one of the dirtiest. It's responsible for about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And we made it our mission to transform it through digitalization and sustainability. And I think that in combination with a really great team helps us to be successful.
And one thing to add on that, which is really interesting in this industry, is at the end, the people who are, you know, operating the vessel are the ones who are consuming, but the ones who are paying are the charters, and these guys have no control over it. So it's really, really hard to basically bring, you know, change to this world where at the end the contracts which are in place are not built to have performance in terms of consumption within the contract. At Spinergie, it was definitely a huge change. You know, before 2020, the maritime industry didn't really care. And I think regulations are coming into place. They are asking for data. And so this first basic question, again, they cannot answer it. Sometimes consumption data is scattered across the company, and it's really hard to provide. So it was definitely a huge driver for us. And it's kind of opening up a market where now software providers can kind of go in and really bring value to this business, which was really, really reluctant to change.
Yeah, so two things I'd like to add here. First of all, I would definitely say sustainability is a responsibility and not just a choice. No matter if we're investors, startup companies, customers, it doesn't really matter. And then you said it, sustainability, I think it's much more than, of course you can go and take the ESG risk kind of view, which the regulatory pressure, of course, emerges, but at the same time, it's a huge opportunity to create change. And that you can do through utilizing data, through creating products, through engaging all your stakeholders, both customers, partners, and also your employees. And through that, you can create positive impact for your business on all ends.
Every single day, how far is it, or to what extent is it embedded to your product and services?
So for us, I mean, it's all about data. Our product is really connecting to different data sources. On some clients, we have, you know, more than 100 data sources coming from the ship. Could be reports, could be data coming from flow meters, could be anything really. And our value proposition is to connect these data and to bring them in one simple platform to then basically act on your consumption, which is one lever that they can press on the button right now to already, on some cases, decrease 10, 15, 20% consumption. It's not going to solve everything within, with regards to maritime, but it's something they can basically push on right now and implement very quickly.
For us, it's actually like the beginning is very similar. I mean, you can't reduce what you cannot measure, right? So we need to have data at the beginning. We need to understand we're talking about emissions right now. Of course, sustainability is much bigger than that, but for simplicity, let's focus on that right now. You need to understand, where do my emissions actually come from? And when we started implementing sustainability in our product offering 2-3 years ago, nobody had a clue. So we started collecting and calculating this sort of data, making it accessible for our customers in emissions reports that they can then also use for their reporting, and then based on that create opportunities in order to reduce the emissions. Because transparency is great, but if you don't act on it, it doesn't really make a change. So reducing the emissions is probably the most important thing right now, which we do through offers such as biofuel, which is a more sustainable version of fuel because it's circular in a certain way, and then we're also having some offsetting options.
And are all of these sectors experiencing the very same transformative journey here?
Outside of the maritime industry, so I mean, for me, maritime is lagging behind on all of this because they've been closing the doors to digitalization. So I would say that as Spinergie, as an ecosystem, we need to learn on what has been done on other sectors, and get inspiration on how we can bring that forward. So for now, we are trying to basically go and push the trend to and kind of catch up on what has been doing on other sectors.
And Forto is operating on all mobility sectors, transportation, freight. To be honest, this is maritime, of course. This is also air. This is also train.
Absolutely. I mean, in the end, for us, this is not different mobility sectors. This is all one market. It's just different modalities that our customers use. And I think it's actually also for us an opportunity to help them understand what is the impact of those different options and provide them with recommendations on how to optimize their way of shipping their goods. But I would fully agree, if we look at like the private transportation, that of course is much further advanced than the B2B market.
And one thing to bear in mind in maritime especially is that these ships operate in international waters, and so they are extremely hard to regulate. And so we have the IMO, and that's a good thing, but these guys struggle to put limitation to this industry. So it really needs to come inside of the companies, and this is what we are seeing. Some of the main drivers for us on some clients is coming from the employees. These guys want to do a change, and so they insist that these guys take Spinergie, and that's something which is really new, and it's something strong coming from within these companies, not only from the regulator. So.
This push for sustainability drive your customers for more digital transformation. How tech ready are they?
Well, and they are not at all, and this is one of the huge pain we are facing every day with all the engineers we have, within Spinergie. Is how do we connect this mess? Like, it's literally, again, hundreds of systems, all different, no data standards. Every client is different. Every new vessel is different. And so imagine, we are working on both sides. We are working on the vessel owners. These guys, at least, they have one fleet. But then we work on the vessel charterers. EDF, I'm managing wind farms. I need vessels. And I'm contracting vessels from 10 different providers. And I want to limit my consumption. Spinergie, then you have to connect to all of these different environments. So it's really becoming, well, it's a challenge, and this is why you need a strong tech to address this.
Well, I mean, we're working at a very different end of the industry. We're on the one hand side collaborating with not the ship owners, but the carriers who are operating the ships, and on the other hand side with the cargo owners. And I would say, if you would have asked me 7 years ago when we started, they were not ready for digitalization, but that's changed tremendously. Like, I would say up until 2-3 years ago, there was the moment when we started embracing sustainability, and I still remember at that time, almost all of the players started like fully embracing digitalization. Everybody started having, like on the carrier side, started having their own digital systems. Customers were asking also for more API integrations. And back then, the notion was yeah, but this market is so profit or so margin driven. It's never gonna embrace sustainability. You're crazy. This is a dream. And for me, that was the perfect option to say, okay, we're the young and wild ones, and we're gonna take this one. And I mean, it's just 2 years later, and now sustainability is the biggest topic throughout the whole industry.
Change, not being efficient, if not measurable, but in the very same time, how can we avoid impact washing?
It's a big question even for, within even our own companies like Spinergie. So it's how do you make sure at the end you bring tangible insights to your clients that are really reducing consumption. So what we need to be doing is trying, when we think about the product, is to bring concrete, fuel-saving KPIs within the product and make our clients stamp it with regards to, okay, we really, made you save this much. And so at the end, and to drive this kind of accountability so that then, it's seen as something that has been, diminishing. And once you have the data and the features within your product which are capturing all of this, then everything suddenly, becomes more transparent, everything, and everything is going in the right direction. So we are really trying to build that within the product so that it is clear that the system is bringing you X at the end of the month.
I would say, or I would add to that actually, I think we've talked a lot about the products, we've talked a lot about the data. What we haven't talked about is business strategy and targets and culture. And for me, these two are the missing puzzle pieces to make sure that you stay authentic, that whatever you're building actually makes sense to all your stakeholders. So on the one hand side, integrating it into company targets, that's making sure it's part of like you can make it part of the vision or purpose. You have to integrate it into the targets you are setting, because let's face it, decarbonization is not an easy task. It's really, like, for example, we just confirmed that we're gonna set science-based targets within this year or in the range of this year. And this will have a heavy impact actually on any financial targets that we're setting for the next year, on any growth targets that we're setting for next year. So integrating sustainability targets into your core strategy as a business is super crucial. And then on the other hand side, making sure it's part of the culture so that, especially for your employees, but also for all the other stakeholders, it doesn't feel like you're just selling a product or just doing something to make profits off it, but rather making sure that they also feel their contribution towards the topic, that it's something that you honestly believe in and that you really want to make a change. And I think if you combine these two, or these four actually, it's, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's gonna get hard to greenwash.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.